His name's Richard Burton.
Not to be confused with Burton Snowboards. Or Burton, the guy who created The Night Before Christmas.
Tim Burton.
Yeah.
That's where I thought you were going. Then you said Burton Snowboards. I'm like, I don't think anyone was confusing Richard Burton with Burton Snowboards. Welcome to Hits Different.
Lee hee hee. I'm Ryan, and that's Molly.
Today's episode, we are continuing our Showgirl series, and we're going to be getting into the lyrics of Elizabeth Taylor. I feel like every single time we do a song breakdown, we're going to have to sing the song a little bit, you know?
I know, you cut me off. I was going to be like, do you think it's forever?
This song has been a vibe for Ryan especially, but we both love it since we first listened to the album.
Day one.
I feel like from our very first listen, Ryan for sure clocked how catchy this song was going to be. How did you feel when we first heard it?
No notes, which anytime Taylor has songs like that, it's pretty exciting. It's like, I don't need to sit with this. I heard once the bass dropped, I was like, yep, ship it. And, you know, one of us ranked it in their top 3 for the album. One of us did not. And I still stand by it. I think it's still in my top 3.
I still don't know where to put it because I love this song, but it's not necessarily one that I seek to intentionally play like some of the other songs. But because of its track placement being number 2, I get it all the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I just hit play on the album, because of that, inevitably I listen to Elizabeth Taylor a lot. And then when I go jump around, I'm usually jumping around to like the back half or something because I listen to the first 4 songs so much. I've been listening to this song on loop, especially today, getting ready to record the episode. And so now it's going to be stuck in my head for a long time.
I mean, it's a sleeper because it has slower bits. It starts slow and then all of a sudden it hits like before the chorus and you're like, oh, okay. Like, all right.
Yes. We've also talked about before that I especially love the sultry Taylor songs, and I feel like this could be a direct add to my sultry Taylor playlist. It has that melodic vibe to it, especially the outro. So we'll break down all the lyrics, but just the melody and the vibe is incredible. In the release party of a Showgirl movie, Taylor talked about how she got the idea for the song and the melody. She explained that she was in the car with Travis when her parents texted her a clip of Elizabeth Taylor's son saying that if there was one person that he would compare to his mom, Elizabeth Taylor, that it would be Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift she explains that she just started talking Travis's ear off about Elizabeth Taylor and was getting so excited about the fact that her son said this because Taylor thinks that Elizabeth Taylor was so glamorous and witty and funny and interesting. She always respected the fact that Elizabeth Taylor would reinvent herself and push the envelope and was a trailblazer and an icon. So for her to be compared to Elizabeth Taylor made her so excited. So excited that she had to get out of the car and then go and record the melody and then got back into the car. And she says at the end of this whole story, so yeah, that's what it's like when that happens.
I wasn't surprised at all because she said similar stuff in the past about like when she'll just get song ideas in the middle of the night and she'll be like, hold on. And she basically described it exactly how I imagined, where it's like, pause, you know, even if you're with someone else, you're like, hold on, I need to like write a banger line real quick. Okay, I'm good. Just had to put that in the voice notes.
Right. So for a brief backstory on Elizabeth Taylor, in case you don't know, if you were watching our live stream the night that Taylor announced the track list and was on New Heights, Ryan and I were learning a lot about Elizabeth Taylor in real time that night. And a lot of people in the live chat educated us on things that we didn't know. We knew she was a Hollywood star. Of course, like she's an icon. We've heard her name. And at this point, maybe you guys already know her story, but in case you don't, we'll fill you in. So Elizabeth Taylor was considered one of the last Hollywood stars to come out of the traditional studio system in Hollywood. She starred in many, many movies throughout her life, and she won 2 Academy Awards.
Elizabeth Taylor was also referred to as the most beautiful woman in the world. She had eyes that were so deep blue that they appeared violet, hence the lyric, "Cried my eyes violet," Elizabeth Taylor. She apparently had a rare second row of eyelashes, which I didn't know. So double eyelashes?
Yeah, they called it a genetic defect, and it's like, what a great genetic defect to
A
have.
second row of eyelashes? That's
Yeah,
wild.
you basically just have built-in extra lashes, you know?
That's crazy. I need
Yeah.
to like zoom in on pictures of her to see that. She was married 8 times to 7 different men. One of them she married, divorced, and then married and divorced again, which we will talk about in a second because he appears in a Taylor lyric in another song.
Yes, his name's Richard Burton.
Not to be confused with Burton Snowboards. Or Burton, the guy who created The Night Before Christmas.
Tim Burton.
Yeah,
That's where I thought you were going. And then you said Burton Snowboards. I'm like, I don't think anyone was confusing Richard Burton with Burton Snowboards.
Going off the rails.
You gotta keep that one in. We'll get to Richard Burton, not the snowboard, more in a second.
Not Jake Burton, not Tim Burton, but Richard Burton.
Anyway, Elizabeth Taylor, as Ryan was just saying, was definitely well known for all of these different relationships, not just relationships, marriages. But she also kind of ended up using that to her advantage later on in life when she knew that everyone was already obsessed with her personal life. She said, let me lean into this. Later in life, she became a big advocate for AIDS at a time when most celebrities were not talking about the AIDS crisis publicly. She founded the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation by selling photos of one of her weddings to People magazine for $1 million. And all of that money went towards the AIDS research and awareness because it funded her foundation and then went on to do great work. I love that she played the media like that. I'll sell photos of my wedding to you, exclusive, and I'm going to put all of that to a really important charity. Go off, queen.
I feel like Taylor would totally do something like that. Maybe not that specific incident, but I feel like she definitely probably really respects and probably relates to that.
Exactly. So now that you know a little bit about Elizabeth Taylor, let's talk about some of the other references that Taylor Swift has made to Elizabeth Taylor before we even get to the song Elizabeth Taylor. So all the way back to Reputation, Taylor Swift referenced Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton being the man that she married twice. And the Ready for It second verse, Taylor's full lines were, knew I was a robber first time that he saw me, stealing hearts and running off and never saying sorry. But if I'm a thief, then he can join the heist and we'll move to an island. And he can be my jailer. Burton to this Taylor. Every love I've known in comparison is a failure. I forget their names now. I'm so very tame now. Never be the same now. I see how this is gonna go. Now that I know more about Elizabeth Taylor, this whole verse changed for me because I've always thought of it from Taylor Swift's perspective. Even though I knew about that this was a Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton reference, I just always thought of this song from Taylor's perspective. And now that I know more about Elizabeth Taylor, it's so the prelude to the track Elizabeth Taylor. Like this is some of the beginning of the parallels about between the two of them in their life.
Low key, when I used to sing this lyric, I had no idea what she was talking about. And for some reason, I always just thought it was like a Bonnie and Clyde reference. Then it would just say that. But I was like, the vibes, like, oh, he can be my, like all this stuff talking about the heist and the robbery and all that. And so I don't know. I was like, I don't know who Burton is to this tale. I don't know. I like just, it's one of those you just like don't take the time to look into, you know, back then you're like, this is just a vibe. I don't care. But I just always thought it was like Bonnie and Clyde vibes. And yeah, now you're like, oh, every love I've known in comparison is a failure. I forget their names now because Elizabeth Taylor had many men in her life. Taylor Swift can relate to that because she hasn't been married 8 times, but we all know she has been equally scrutinized for her own personal dating life. And so there's also probably a lot of relatability there for her of like, oh yeah, people also care way too much about what I'm doing and who I'm dating.
And the knew I was a robber first time that he saw me, stealing hearts and running off and never saying sorry. It's how the media painted Taylor and her relationships. Oh, she's just dating for sport. And that applies to how the media talked about Elizabeth Taylor too. Then the Wildest Dreams music video, so we're talking 1989 now, even before Reputation, you could draw parallels to Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton in the Wildest Dreams music video if you wanted to. Not saying that this was the core inspiration for it, but in hindsight, there are vibes.
Yeah, because obviously the Wildest Dreams music video is like clearly set like back in the 1950s. It's in Africa, and Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton met on set when they were filming Cleopatra around that time period in the 60s. I guess they also went on a safari in South Africa during their trial reconciliation, the second time they were giving it a go, before they married for the second time. And it's interesting that this all started also during 1989, because we'll talk about in a second about the blank space parallels to this. So it actually kind of tracks that this music video is giving vibes of that era, because then we get blank space, which is also just crazy that like there were these little weavings and we had no idea.
Right. From 1989 in Rep, and again, similar producers, as we've talked about, with Max Martin and Shellback producing both these songs that we're talking about, Ready For It and Wildest Dreams. Clearly, the Elizabeth Taylor connections have been on Taylor's mind for a long time. And if you haven't seen the Wildest Dreams music video, go back and give it a watch. But the character that Taylor is playing falls in love with the male character while shooting a movie. And then it becomes clear at the end of the music video that he has another partner that is not her. It seems like they're falling in love with each other while they're acting out their scenes, but then he has someone on the red carpet, and that's what happened with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. They were both married to different people when they first worked together and fell in love, and then ultimately got divorced, and then like to those other people, and then married each other. If
she's also a brunette in the video.
Yeah, exactly.
And her hair was short, and it was very, it was on brand with like the era for when she shot it too. But
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with The Life of a Showgirl, there are Elizabeth Taylor references out the wazoo. So if you didn't see our breakdown of the Fate of Ophelia music video, we will link to that in the description of this episode. We've been doing a whole Showgirl series in case you've missed any of it. We did our album rankings. We did the Fate of Ophelia music video. We've analyzed the lyrics from the Fate of Ophelia, and we've shared your stories about how you relate to the Fate of Ophelia. So make sure that you're subscribed to our channel or following us wherever you listen to your podcast so that you don't miss any of these breakdowns moving forward. You can also stay tuned for the docuseries content we'll have coming up. Give this video a like, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube. The Fate of Ophelia music video has many Elizabeth Taylor references that we already talked about in that episode. The one that I'll call out again here is the scene with the ropes, where Taylor is again wearing the brunette wig.
Which people have said looks like Elizabeth Taylor when she acted in the movie Cleopatra, which again is when the set of when she met Richard Burton. And also it's on like Spotify, it's the visualizer, or like the lyric video, it's the clip of Taylor with the ropes. People thought that was her from Cleopatra being Elizabeth Taylor, and it's like, it probably was.
Yes. And there were also additional photos of Taylor in a bob type brunette wig with bangs in a dressing room, that these are just in the Showgirl album photo shoot that is very Cleopatra coded, like the whole thing. And then I broke out my deluxe CD to show you even further Elizabeth Taylor references that she included in her album promo. So this is, I think this deluxe CD was called like the Sweat and Vanilla Perfume edition. So if you're watching on YouTube or Patreon, you can see these right now. So it came in this box. For those who are listening, the box has the standard album cover on this deluxe CD edition. And then you open it up and there's a sparkly orange box that's a much smaller version of like what the cardigan came in. And this has the Elizabeth Taylor keychain, this violet eye keychain. It's gold.
That's very Cleopatra-esque. Like the way it looks like the evil eye, but it's violet. So it's like a double play there.
Yes. So Cry My Eyes Violet, Elizabeth Taylor. We'll circle back to the connection to this, but there's also envelopes in the deluxe CD. So yeah, Taylor really leaned into the Elizabeth Taylor references with the album in general, but obviously for the song.
Also, if you search track by track on any of your streaming services, Taylor talks about each song a little bit beforehand. And this is what she said about Elizabeth Taylor, the song, not the person. Well, and the person. See what Elizabeth Taylor is one of the most ultimate quintessential showgirls I could ever imagine. Not in a literal sense, as much as she was under a microscope, so intense, and she handled it with humor, and she got along with her life. She continued to make incredible art.
And so this is a love song kind of through the lens of the motif of what she had to go through in her life and the sort of parallels that I feel in my own life. You know, role models are pretty hard to come by, but I would absolutely say she's one of mine. So I thought this was an interesting quote from Taylor to lead us into the lyric breakdown, because she's saying that she used Elizabeth Taylor as the inspiration, but she's drawing parallels about her own life. And as we start to break down the lyrics, I think you'll see the very clear call outs to things that we know about Elizabeth Taylor, but you can also draw your own parallels to how Taylor Swift might relate to them. And I think it's interesting to consider in different points of the song if we're hearing it from Elizabeth Taylor's perspective or Taylor Swift's perspective, or both, because I think it changes.
Yeah, it's like father figure in that way.
With the intro, Elizabeth Taylor, do you think it's forever?
Do you think it's forever?
I already question who's talking here. I think that it's Taylor Swift talking to Elizabeth Taylor saying, hey, Elizabeth, do you think this is forever? My relationship, do you think it's forever? I think it might be. And I'm asking you in the universe because you had to deal with the same thing that I've dealt with, which is many different people come into your life and can't handle it. And what you think is going to be forever ends up not being forever.
Also, I mentioned Blank Space earlier, which, fun fact, is one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs of all time. It still is, will always be.
Same for Travis.
Right? He has excellent taste. The first thing I think about is, do you think it's forever? Or, so it's gonna be forever? Or it's gonna go down in flames? And spoke about how Blank Space, what we know now, it's like, yeah, that Blank Space is a very exaggerated song about how the media painted Taylor. It's like, oh, she's crazy. She dates all these men. She's a man-eater. And she's just, uses them up for play. And you have that. And then now you have this like almost sister song of like somebody else who also dealt with the same, obviously not the same as the modern day, but like a different version of it back then. And so it's a cool like play on words there and like a switch up of the lyrics. Also, the beat in both songs it's like the same, like not consistently. The chorus and just like different dips in and out to the song, that it's literally the same beat on both Blank Space and Elizabeth Taylor, which is probably why subconsciously Elizabeth Taylor, like it stuck immediately, because it was like, okay, what is this like? And then when I was listening, it was like scratching my brain the other day and I was like, where have I heard these drums and this beat? And then I was like, oh my God, it's Blank Space. And I like went over and listened and it was like the exact same.
I love this comparison. When I saw that you wrote this in our notes, I got so excited thinking about the flip side, like you're saying, of the two sides of this story, because Blank Space is the Taylor's portrayal of acting out what the media thought of her and her making a satirical performance out of that and playing that character. Whereas this Elizabeth Taylor song, you're getting the personal side of how that affects your life, having that type of scrutiny with your celebrity status.
Long list of ex-lovers. That lyric in Blank Space, you're like, yup, same. Elizabeth Taylor was married 8 times. Also, the music video of Blank Space, she's kind of like this rich, like, I mean, her hair was shorter back then during that era, but it has kind of like the
bob.
Yeah, like it's the bob, but it's styled in that video of kind of like a housewife, kind of 1950s style. And she's living in this mansion. And it's very luxe, and it just makes me think about like Hollywood, and it just feels, there's like diamonds and like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just very like the car that she smashes. It's just very luxury. And so it's just really funny because now we have Elizabeth Taylor, which is like the grown up version
Mhm.
from someone's actual life that again was exaggerated.
So getting into the first verse, the lyrics are, that view of Portofino was on my mind when you called me at the Plaza Athénée. Ooh, oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me. All the right guys promised they'd stay. Under bright lights, they withered away. But you bloom. Portofino was on my mind, and I think you know why. I feel like I'm doing a dramatic poetry reading right now.
Yeah, but you bloom.
But you bloom.
Portofino was on my mind. It's like when they do like what is it? Like poem
Slam poetry.
Slam, yes.
Yeah. That view of Portofino was on my mind when you called me at the Plaza Athénée. Anyway. So clearly the main character is thinking about Portofino, Italy, and there are immediate parallels to Elizabeth Taylor's life, or this is really a direct reference to Elizabeth Taylor's life, because famously Richard Burton proposed to Elizabeth Taylor in Portofino in 1964. He proposed the first time. Yeah. I wonder if he did.
I don't know if he proposed
a full proposal the second time. I don't know.
She was probably like, yo, you want to do this again? And he was like, okay.
In my extensive research, I didn't see anything about a second proposal. So he proposed on the balcony of their hotel room. And apparently this is kind of debated. Some people think it maybe happened on a yacht or whatever. But this is coming straight from the Elizabeth Taylor website, where I think it's run by her family and stuff. Like they wrote that he proposed on the balcony of their hotel room. And this hotel suite 471. 47. How many 47 references are we going to uncover that Taylor could have been Easter egging us with? The fact that in Hamlet, Ophelia dies in Act 4, Scene 7 is what we've been thinking the 47 reference that Taylor made during the New Heights episode could mean. But when I saw that this suite number was 471, I'm like, come on, what are the chances?
Originally, I was like, does it add up to 13? It doesn't. It adds up to 12.
TS12.
Oh my God.
You're like, it's not. It adds up to 12. I'm like, girl, that's the album. That's crazy.
Numerology.
See, I didn't even add it up. So obviously, the view of Portofino is likely the view from the balcony where Elizabeth Taylor was proposed to. They visited this hotel so much so that there is a meal named after Elizabeth Taylor to this day that you can get at the hotel. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Hotel Splendido. And this, I was so excited to tell you about because they're in the album photo shoot of Taylor on the Life of Showgirl album. There's a photo of her on a dining cart in a hotel hallway, and there's a plate of spaghetti next to her. If people have been, monitoring the lore, some of us thought that spaghetti might have been a Charlie XCX nod, which we can explain that when we get to Actually Romantic. But now that I figured this out, that's the meal Elizabeth Taylor ordered at this hotel, and it's on the menu as spaghetti a la Elizabeth Taylor. And it's literally just spaghetti with a tomato sauce. So I'm now thinking all these Swifties were trying to make this connection like, oh, this is Charlie XCX shade, including myself. I thought this. But Taylor, if she saw that, was probably shaking her head like, no, this is a nod to Elizabeth Taylor, that she always ordered spaghetti when she's at this hotel in Portofino.
And you think about if Elizabeth Taylor was proposed to in her hotel room, that hotel hallway, you see the door that's 87.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is crazy though, because again, when she made this album, she was not yet engaged. So that is just a funny parallel that ended up once again being like, oh, spot on. She's engaged to Travis. It's room number 87, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
So it's like it really just like paid off very well.
Yeah.
That's so niche.
Right?
So niche.
And now I want to go to this hotel in Italy and order this spaghetti a la Elizabeth Taylor.
I just want to, I know, I was just thinking like next time we go to Europe, can we go to Portofino, please? And just be super obnoxious and just like play this song on repeat and just be like, Portofino was on my mind. But actually, though.
And then we have to go to the Plaza Athénée and have
Obviously.
someone call us, and then we can think about the view in Portofino.
Yeah. We're gonna go to Hotel Splendido. Oh my god, I wonder if we could stay in room 471.
I mean, it's probably
Manifest.
really expensive.
Yeah, you're right.
To stay in the room Elizabeth Taylor was proposed to in. I mean, staying in
Especially
the
now.
whole hotel is probably insanely expensive.
Especially now. Thanks a lot, Taylor. I like when you Google Portofino now, it's like, yeah, like Taylor Swift has put, I mean, I'm sure it was already on the map, but like it's like Taylor has like put Portofino back on the map, I guess. And like people have been going to Portofino since this song dropped. If I lived close to Portofino, you know I'd be going there.
I have to acknowledge for anyone who's watching that Ryan's Apple reaction just kicked in and gave a thumbs up while she was talking.
Oh, it did? I didn't see it.
Yeah. So, the Plaza Athénée is the name of two different hotels, one in Paris and one in New York. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton lived at the one in Paris for 6 months in 1971. And then Elizabeth Taylor also frequently stayed at the New York location, and she would stay in one of their penthouses. It was a popular spot for celebrities.
Has Taylor Swift stayed in any of these places? Because probably.
I don't know.
Because I would.
Plaza Athénée definitely hopped on that promo when the song came out, because I remember them posting to their social accounts with the songs from Showgirl. They leaned in, they embraced it. But I don't know if we know if Taylor Swift has stayed there. We just definitely know Elizabeth Taylor has.
Now I just had the crazy thought, and it leads me into the next point, is originally when I heard this song, I was like, oh, this is probably the parallel being that, you know, Travis visited Taylor during the Eras tour in Europe, and he went to a bunch of shows, and they gallivanted around Europe. They were in Italy for Lake Como on a boat and all of that, because Taylor would do this, and I would also do this if I had the money and the lifestyle. What if her and Travis went to both the Plaza Athénée and Portofino? And so what if the song is literally a double meaning where she's like, yeah, like I was at the Plaza Athénée and Travis called me and we were thinking about Portofino. Maybe that's too crazy, but you never know.
You never know. I mean, the Paris shows were in May. I forget when Taylor and Travis went to Italy. It was probably in June or July before his training camp stuff would have kicked back in. But Taylor started writing Showgirl around June. So all of these parallels tie in together perfectly when you think about the time frame of Taylor writing this album while she was spending her summer in Europe, and all of that was actively happening
during like the peak of her relationship at the time. You know, it was like this summer romance in Europe, and like, you know, her and Travis were doing really well. They were entering like year 2 of their relationship, or
well, technically they would have just been coming up on, they would have been finishing their first year. The next line, oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me. That is one of the first lyrics that we found out about for the Life of a Showgirl album before we ever heard it, because it was in the pop-up, the Spotify pop-up in New York. And it was written in lipstick on the vanity mirror, which was a nod to Elizabeth Taylor writing on a mirror in lipstick in one of her movies. So I thought that was a fun little note.
So many connections. It's crazy.
Yeah. And obviously the whole point of the line is just that when you're famous, you have this lifestyle that everyone thinks is so glamorous, but often it's not exactly what it seems. It has its downsides.
Yeah, especially if Taylor is just looking, you know, like in wish list. She just wants, dreaming about a driveway with a basketball hoop, you know? Simple things. And then all the right guys promised they'd stay under bright lights. They withered away, but you bloom. I always loved this lyric and like immediately clocked it, at least from like Taylor's perspective of, once again, like Travis went to 14 of her shows during the Eras tour. He obviously eventually was on stage during a performance, and clearly like that was his his scene. And now that I'm thinking about it, also it's interesting, like under bright lights they withered away but you bloom. And I'm thinking about like the double meaning there of like he performs on a football field under bright lights, assuming it's a night game. Just the Taylor connection to those lyrics. It's like in her past relationships, obviously it seemed like a lot of her lovers were a little bit intimidated or turned off by how big she was and her fame, her success, and all that came with it. And Travis has been the first one that it seems like this is where he's comfortable and he gets it.
Right. I mean, he has spent his entire career being scrutinized in a different way, you know, for his football career. And like you're saying, playing under the bright stadium lights, playing in these huge games. He already won 2 Super Bowls before they ever started dating. But also the bright lights could also mean the media and TV and things like that. He'd already learned how, like he was already media trained. I mean, he got more media savvy after he started dating Taylor, but he already knew how to handle press conferences and people sticking microphones in his face and caring about where he went. You know, like he was already a celebrity from an athlete perspective before they ever dated, which I feel like is why he was able to rise to the occasion so well. But when you think about some of the other famous people that Taylor's dated, you'd think that they would also be able to handle it. But maybe it's because he was part of a team that he's used to having to share the spotlight too, whereas some of the other people were individuals with fame.
Right. I also feel like athletes are in a league of their own, literally, because, you know, a lot of celebrities on the other spectrum who are like artists, they do often shy away from the limelight. They're like, yeah, I'm a performer, but like when I'm not, I want to be like hidden away.
Right.
Which Taylor like teeters between the two, even though we know that she prefers to be out more than hidden. But it's like athletes, I feel like they don't protect themselves as much. Like they kind of enjoy the whole thing, the whole part of it, you know, being out and about, being recognized, and like enjoying the fun that comes with like being an athlete.
Yeah, I feel like that can also go either way. You know, there are the athletes that, you know, have no problem going and sitting courtside somewhere or being seen. And then there are athletes that you literally never hear or see from them unless they're playing. But Travis, I think, opts to the side of Taylor, which is I want to be able to go out and live my life if that's what I want to do and not have to worry about it. So it also clicked for me today thinking about just the bright lights reference that Taylor made the lyric video for So High School with the stadium lights twinkling. And then that's another lyric reference, like cheeks pink in the twinkling lights. And now she's talking about it from like bright lights could give people stage fright. So I think the Elizabeth Taylor nod from this line is very obvious, which is that Elizabeth Taylor, as we've already said, had many husbands. Clearly seems like her relationships couldn't handle, whether it was that she wanted to end those or not. Like, I don't know the details of all of the relationships, but I'm assuming that her level of celebrity probably negatively impacted some of those. So then we get into the pre-chorus, which is just one line in this case. And if your letters ever said goodbye, I don't know if there's a whole lot that we need to read into this line on, but if you want to think about it, letters would probably have been a main form of communication between Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Landlines existed, but people very much still wrote letters. And as I referenced when I was talking about the deluxe CDs include these little envelopes that look like letters. They have just different like photo cards in them, but Taylor really leaned into the whole letter envelope thing. So I just thought that was a fun little call out for if your letters ever said goodbye.
Which is interesting because also we see the play on and Actually Romantic as well, where she's talking about funny Valentines. And we saw that at the pop-up as well, like the Happy Valentine's Day card. So it's once again, you're like, letters play into multiple spots here.
So if your letters ever said goodbye into the chorus, what would you do, Ryan?
I'd cry my eyes violet, Elizabeth Taylor. Nobody asked for that.
I asked for it.
That's where the bass drops. That's where the song just like goes off. God, it never gets old.
I know it's so hard to talk the lyrics, not sing the lyrics. Elizabeth Taylor. Tell me for real, do you think it's forever? Been number 1, but I never had 2, and I can't have fun if I can't have Be My NY when Hollywood hates me. You're only as hot as your last hit, baby. Been number 1, but I never had 2, and I can't have fun if I can't have you.
You. There's a lot to unpack
You.
there. Yo.
You.
Not Hermione. Not
You.
me, not Hermione. You.
Anyone doesn't know what we're referencing, then you're not a Harry Potter fan.
If I make my move,
you're free to check the king.
Check the king.
Oh, it's like my favorite Harry Potter clip ever.
Yo.
Yo.
Oh, get back on track.
Okay.
All right.
I'd Cry My Eyes Violet Elizabeth Taylor. As we've explained many times, Elizabeth Taylor was known for her deep blue eyes that looked violet.
So when I heard Been Number One, but I never had two, I remember Molly and I, like, during our album reacts, were like, so what did that mean? And then it was like, oh, okay, well, one could assume if we're talking about from like Taylor Swift's perspective, been number one on the charts. You know, I guess Elizabeth Taylor, same idea. She won Oscars, but never had two, could mean like, AKA having like success and a successful relationship, or one that lasted. It's a very smart and yet simple line of like, been number one, but I never had two.
And Alex explained it to us as two could mean a pair as well, like a pair of people. Two makes a couple, you know, like that kind of a play on it. But I've been number one, but I've never had two. I've never had that at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe she has been in a relationship and been number one or whatever, but it didn't feel the same way, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Because it wasn't forever. She's asking, do you think it's forever? Because I've been number one, but I've never really had this. And I can't have fun if I can't have. And then she pauses, but also there's the little backing vocal.
This is when you said earlier how this song deserves to be on your sultry playlist, because obviously we are doing it a disservice, but nobody wants to hear how she actually says it from either of us. Nobody wants that. But like when I sing it, when I'm alone, it's like, yeah, it's freaking sexy, man. The way she says it, you're like, okay, girl, we get what you're saying. Okay. You're like, you're filling in the blanks with that inflection. Okay. And I love how like she doesn't say like, if I can't have, because it's like a double meaning there in itself of like, you think she's going to be like, if I can't have you, which she obviously says later and a few lines later, but because she fills in the blank with like a sexual sound, you're like, okay, so it's more like, you know, like you equals other things. But I also just love like the play when she's done this in the past of like omitting a word and just letting the listener just fill in the blanks. It's like, obviously our brain wants it to be you because it sounds, it rhymes with two, it makes the most sense, but it's kind of giving us a little bit of like wordplay and like imagination. But she also does it in like Down Bad when she's like, how dare you say that it's, and then moves on, and like that's a different reason to omit, but still I just love how she does like this wordplay.
In Down Bad, it's so cool because she's leaving out the word over. She's saying, how dare you say that it's over would be the word, but she doesn't want the other person to say it, and she can't even say it. How dare you say that it's, can't even say the word over. And in this case, it's like, I can't have fun if I can't have, you know.
I can't even say it because I'm so distracted with other things and other sounds. Sheesh.
Be my and why when Hollywood hates me, you're only as hot as your last hit, baby. The cadence. That's the other thing about her leaving out the word before. It's like it plays with the cadence of the song and like keeps it moving in a really cool way. So the Be My and Why when Hollywood hates me, you're only as hot as your last hit, baby, is such a brilliant way to describe Elizabeth Taylor's relationship with Hollywood. So like we described earlier when we were giving you the backstory of Elizabeth Taylor, she got her start at MGM in their studio system, and she was there for a decade. She made a huge name for herself while she was there and started to reshape the celebrity culture. Then after that decade and becoming one of the biggest stars, she left the studio. So that was a turning point in Hollywood when she kind of was one of the first people to break away from the studio contract era where that's just what you did. You worked for that studio and you stayed with that studio. By her transitioning away and leaving MGM, it allowed her to pursue different kinds of projects, which led her to Cleopatra, where she made $1 million in 1963. So there are so many parallels to that story of Elizabeth Taylor and her relationship with Hollywood to Taylor Swift and her relationship with the music industry.
Which could be really similar to Taylor and how she left a label for another label, and that is when her career really bloomed and she was able to take more ownership over her work. And also making $1 million in the 60s is wild, because that's still a lot of money. You're Only As Hot As Your Last Hit Baby was also another lyric that we got before we got the album, which is interesting because it was during when we went on the little lyrical chase because the Swifties are forever sleuths and drew letters from different 1989 songs in that instance, which is funny because we just talked about 1989 and now it's like, okay. Obviously, the intention was because that album was produced with Max Martin and Shellback, but also, once again, double meaning of the ties to Elizabeth Taylor and that album. So that's 2 lyrics that we got from this song early on.
Yes. And I love You're Only As Hot As Your Last Hit Baby. I remember when we first got this line literally getting chills because it's so on the nose of Taylor to address this that before we've ever heard the album, we're getting this line, You're Only As Hot As Your Last Hit Baby. And that it was coming from the 1989 songs, which it's funny that when you were just explaining Taylor leaving her record label, that made her career blossom, because I think that a lot of people at that time felt like she could have been making a big mistake or that she peaked with 1989. That'll probably be it. I mean, even Taylor says in Miss Americana, as she's putting out the Lover album, that this might be her last chance to make an impact as an artist because you get sent out to pasture. So the whole line of You're Only As Hot As Your Last Hit Baby is so applicable to Taylor and how her career has been thought of, like people always assuming that this will be it, or she can't get any bigger, or she's not going to be able to keep reinventing herself, or like whatever narrative people want to try and put on it. They don't like her music, that they think it's dumb, blah, blah, blah. Like she's not actually that good. You could apply any of those things and take all of that and apply it straight to Elizabeth Taylor too, because her career was thought of the same way. She had that big hit, but then the next one won't be as good. Or criticizing her relationships or her move to leave MGM and do her own thing. It's like, You're only as hot as your last hit, baby. You gotta try and stay relevant, gotta keep working.
Which is interesting because Taylor definitely has always tried to one-up herself because she is a perfectionist. And like those eras you just mentioned, it's like, when Rep didn't do well and she was like, I'll just write a better album. And it was like each album during that time period, I felt like, God, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And I feel like, thank God for COVID in that sense, because it kind of broke the mold that she's put her and the media put her in for so long, her whole career at that point, that she was finally able to just like deviate and change up the whole system of what she'd been doing. And ever since then, I mean, I'm biased, but I'm like, what some might have considered career side, but like you said, by leaving the label, Rep didn't do well. 1989 was when she broke into pop and it was really successful, but then it was like it fell off for Rep. I don't agree with that, obviously. Need that asterisk. I feel like ever since then, like her career's been unstoppable. And, and it was like, oh, Folklore and Evermore were just kind of, they don't really count in the spectrum of like competition for herself. I felt like it was just like her doing what she loved at the time because like, why not?
Right. When she was talking about writing Folklore and Evermore, she said that she always wrote her music from a place of thinking about performing it and going on tour. And so when she was writing Folklore and Evermore, that was not even in the realm of her imagination about it. It wasn't about making this some big studio album or a radio single. It was just whatever stories were pouring out of her at the time. Not only just the music itself being different, but the whole surprise drop, no promotion, dropping at midnight. Up until that point, Taylor had always had a lead single that came out 2 or 3 months before the album, and it created this whole thing. And with Folklore, it was just like, boop.
Completely formulaic, and it broke the cycle. And then obviously we got the re-records and so on. And like the cycle has never been the same ever since. And it almost feels like now like the timeline is kind of reset again. Like some people have said, it's like, and we're back to, potentially normalizing. But I mean, at this point, obviously it's like Taylor may not think this, but like she could stop making music today and her legacy is like locked in, like it's locked in. Hopefully she doesn't have to have that pressure anymore of like, yeah, I'm just as good as my last hit. It's like, nah, girl, you're good. Like, which hit?
Well, as she says in the Life of a Showgirl song, I'm immortal now, baby dolls. You couldn't kill me if you tried. So I think that she is at the point where she knows that. But even so, Showgirl blew every other record she had out of the water. She's now standing on the legacy that she's built and continuing to beat it. Will that be possible for every album that comes next for her to keep topping her previous records? I don't know. It's a pretty impossible a pretty impossible standard to keep chasing for her to want to keep beating herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she gonna try. And obviously, Taylor loves New York. I think she considers New York to be her home, despite living in many other places. New York was a safe haven for Elizabeth Taylor when Hollywood turned on her, and Taylor has also found her home in New York. Despite having homes in many other places, there are lyrics in Taylor's songs that indicate New York is her home. So going into this second verse, we get... Hey, what could you possibly get for the girl who has everything and nothing all at once? Babe, I would trade the Cartier for someone to trust.
Just kidding.
We hit the best booth at Musso and Frank's. They say I'm bad news. I just say, thanks. And you look at me like you're hypnotized. And I think you know why.
Portofino was on my mind.
This blew my mind when I was researching this song. I'm sure other people who are more familiar with Elizabeth Taylor already knew this fact. I found out for the first time while prepping that the girl who has everything and nothing all at once, Elizabeth Taylor, was literally in a film called The Girl Who Had Everything.
That's crazy. I did not know that. That's such a double play on words again, because you're like, yeah, the girl has everything and nothing all at once. I'm like, yeah, I get where she's coming from saying that. And it's like, once again, it's like that could be about her life. That could be about Elizabeth Taylor's life, literally and figuratively, but also literally, because she was in a film.
The Girl Who Had Everything. Yeah, it obviously can be a way to describe how isolating a life of fame can feel. You can have everything in terms of your success, but you could have no one to share it with, as we've been talking about throughout this entire song.
Yeah, which is like the lyric earlier of like, I've been number one, but I never had two. Was there a point where Taylor maybe wondered if she couldn't have a successful relationship while also being successful? And talks about like Miss Americana saying you get to the mountaintop and you look around and you're like, oh my God, what now? I didn't have a partner that I climbed it with that I could like high five. And that was after she won Album of the Year.
For the second time.
Yeah, for 1989. I don't even know what that would feel like to be at like, you know, at that time, the height of her career, and she has everything, but then at the end of the day, she goes home and she's alone. I feel like there was a long period of her life where that was the case, and that's just gotta be so isolating and so showgirl, you know?
Compared to now, the promotion cycle for The Life of a Showgirl, she's announcing this album on her boyfriend's podcast with him sitting right next to her. They tell all these stories in that episode about how he was there for her in these different big moments, like when she got the call about her master's and things like that. And she's talked about him being on the set of the Fortnite music video and how he brought happiness and joy to that shoot. Just all these different things. He's now clearly very much a part of her success and celebrates her achievements with her. So she has that person now. So maybe she thinks she has everything at once.
And then she got engaged right after that episode. We had no idea. She had no idea.
I can't believe we saw Taylor Swift the day she got engaged. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This is the most parasocial thing that could happen to us. Like,
yeah, we're all focused on like the fact that she's announcing like an album release, and then it's like, wait, what? And then yeah, when we found out like 2 weeks later when she told us that she got engaged, and then you find out later when it was, and you're like, this is too much. Travis, you are psychotic.
But also thank you. It's so amazing the way that this all went down. It's so great. So the Cartier line, I would trade the Cartier for someone to trust. Just kidding. First of all, I love when Taylor makes jokes in the middle of songs like this.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. So Elizabeth Taylor had a close relationship with the jewelry house Cartier, and they made some of the memorable pieces of her jewelry collection. I feel like that's something that we actually haven't touched on yet as we've been talking about her, is that she was very well known for her jewelry collection. It was a very important part of the Elizabeth Taylor
aesthetic.
Yeah.
The aesthetic.
But yeah, her vibe. And Elizabeth worked with Cartier on resetting her iconic diamond, the Taylor Burton diamond, into a necklace. And they also worked on other big pieces of jewelry that were a part of her collection famously.
And obviously Taylor is also known for her lavish jewelry collection. And I feel like definitely over the last like year or 3 years, it's been really
popping off.
Yeah, it's been really front and center, I guess. Like, you know, I mean, obviously now we also have people who are tracking like what she's wearing and all the little details. Obviously, when we were clowning, we were like looking, and you know, then when she started dating Travis, you're like inspecting, like, is that an 87? What's that? Like, there's just so much going on through her jewelry. And so it's just another coincidence that she had with Elizabeth Taylor. And she repeats pieces as well. Like she has her like staples, and she obviously wears Cartier a lot. So
then we hit the best booth at Musso and Frank's. They say I'm bad news. I just say thanks. I picture Taylor literally going, thanks. Like sarcastically, like thanks. Like I'm bad news, whatever. And you look at me like you're hypnotized, and I think you know why. So Musso and Frank's is a grill in Hollywood.
Apparently opened in 1919 and is known as like one of the longest standing spots, particularly for it's been frequented by Hollywood A-listers over the decades. Elizabeth Taylor was one of them, along with other celebrities like Marilyn Monroe, Steve McQueen. When I first heard this line, again, when you're talking about the double lives, I know Taylor was probably thinking the same thing. We see Taylor and Travis out at restaurants all the time because the Paps be invading her space. And they often frequent the same spots. I know there's like that fancy steakhouse in Kansas City. Travis and Mahomes obviously have their own restaurant too. And like, they're always like, you know, going to like the spots. And so it really made me think about their, you know, life and how they get the best booth and all of that. And I was like, I wouldn't be shocked if like one of the waiters or someone, or like there was whispers when she was there of like, oh, like you're here with Taylor, like she's bad news. Like some stupid person there probably like made a joke, and she was probably just like, cool, like thanks.
Just say thanks.
But
you look at me like you're hypnotized, and I think you know why. Maybe the same reason she was leaving out words in the chorus. That sleepless night you've been dreaming of.
Literally.
Then the next pre-chorus line, it changes. So in the first pre-chorus was, and if your letters ever said goodbye. And now it's, and if you ever leave me high and dry. Then we go back into the chorus. I'd cry my eyes violet, Elizabeth Taylor. Post-chorus, then we get to the bridge. This one's really hard to say without singing because it's just so ethereal. All my white diamonds and lovers are forever, and the papers on the screen and in their minds. All my white diamonds and lovers are forever. Don't you ever end up anything but mine.
Which is funny. I remember when we heard Fate of Ophelia, and I was like, wow, like this song is so anxiety free. And then not that this song feels anxiety ridden, but she still had lines of like, oh, like, how would I feel if you left me? And like, you know, she's still normal in that sense of like, she's obviously very secure in her relationship. But she's like, but if you ever left me, like, because a lot of them do and whatever. So it's like, it's never not on the table, you know? It's more of a sexy, confident, whatever I'm, you know, doing me kind of song versus like anxiety ridden.
Yeah, in this song I hear it as almost confident. Like it starts off as, do you think it's forever? But then by the end, when we get to the bridge, it's like, don't you ever end up anything but mine. I almost take it in a playful way. Like, don't ever end up anything but mine. And versus Cornelia Street, where Taylor says, I hope I never lose you. Hope it never ends. I'd never walk Cornelia Street again. To me, there's just a slight difference in the confidence level and security that I feel in when she says, don't you ever end up anything but mine, versus I hope I never lose you. I hope it never ends. I'd never walk Cornelia Street again. It's like desperate. almost, and this
Right.
doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah, the inflection's different.
Yeah, and I also feel like it makes a difference if you're thinking about it from Elizabeth Taylor's perspective or Taylor Swift's perspective, right? Because we know Elizabeth Taylor, for example, didn't end up with Richard Burton. Like, they married twice, but they didn't end up together. So it depends on which character you think is talking as to how you might interpret that line.
Obviously, we will talk about Wishlist later on, but now that we've been deep diving Elizabeth Taylor, it made me think about the lyric, I thought I had it right once, twice.
But I did not.
There's so much meaning to that of, we know Taylor's been in like a lot of relationships, and like some that stand out that could have been like that one or just anyone who's gone through different relationships. But it's like, if you think about it against Elizabeth Taylor with Burton, I thought I had it right once, twice, but I did not. And it's like, I don't even know if that's the parallel. It made me think of that line. I'm like, that's also relevant now if you're factoring in all of this. Girl got married to him twice again to really be like, dang, still not it. Still not it.
I did not. Yeah, you're so right.
The normal person, non-celebrity, is guilty of getting back with someone. People have done that 1,000
Eating
times.
out the trash.
Marrying, divorcing, marrying again, and then divorcing. It's like, wow, like celebrities just be doing stuff. You know what I mean? Elizabeth Taylor was wild for that. There's just no need.
I actually have a member of my family who got divorced, and then a couple of years later, they remarried. They're still together. It surprised all of us when it happened.
I mean, at least they're still together, I think Elizabeth Taylor probably hoped that would be the case, but then nope, then she went on and married somebody else. He wasn't even her last lover.
Nope. So to get into the diamonds of it all, as we talked about, Elizabeth Taylor was very well known for her jewelry collection. So I think that this is a play on multiple different things. So there's so many parallels to the line, all my white diamonds and lovers are forever. So there's the phrase diamonds are forever, which was coined around this time in 1947 was when it was first used. Then it went on to be called the best advertising slogan of the 20th century. So diamonds are forever becomes a thing. Elizabeth Taylor was known for her white diamonds. She loved them so much that she named her perfume White Diamonds.
Which is apparently an iconic perfume. I feel like my grandma might have had it. That is definitely how I knew of her back in the day, like growing up.
It's an international bestseller.
Also, obviously, when you think about diamonds, it's like you have Taylor who plays on In the Life of a Showgirl song, like Sequins Are Forever. She switches it up because, like nowadays that's more relevant to like her situation with her fame and all of that. But then I think about also like diamonds are a girl's best friend, which like that was coined by Marilyn Monroe, which is relevant because we see like flickerings of her throughout this album. It was also during the same time period.
And then the lovers are forever, mixing that in with diamonds are forever. As we've been talking about, both Elizabeth Taylor and Taylor Swift can't get away from them being named with their past relationships, their past lovers. It will follow them around forever. It will go down in history and be associated with them, whether they want it to or not.
Follow you around. Yeah, it's not a good thing. Lovers are forever in that way, in that usage. It's like not in the way that you would want them to be.
Right? Know? It's like other people these days can just go untag themselves from those photos on Instagram and literally it's gone. No, anyone new you meet after that can know whatever relationships you want to tell them about. For Taylor Swift, it's a quick Google search. It's not already top of mind, Oh, she dated so-and-so. Oh, what about that? Oh, doesn't she have so many boyfriends?
Yeah, like maybe I'm a nightmare dressed as a daydream. And I mean, it goes into the next line of like in the papers, on the screen, and in their minds. It's like, because that's where that stuff's living. It's like the white diamonds like play on like the perfume. It's forever. It's on the screen. I'm sure she had commercials, maybe. I don't know. In the papers, newspapers were probably a big thing back then.
Elizabeth Taylor's in movies.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like all the different spots and like the ways of like how that stuff just like will never die in a good way and a bad way.
Diamonds are forever because a diamond is never going to lose value. It's indestructible, like all of those things about diamonds. The lovers are also forever, and these things will live on in perpetuity. till the end of time. In the papers, meaning the press, on the screen, in Elizabeth Taylor's context, I think meaning her work, but also for Taylor Swift, the news, yada yada. And then in their minds, Taylor Swift is on people's minds, whether you're a fan or not. Everyone's got an opinion. She could not be seen in public for months and there'd still be headlines about her every day.
I mean, when you think about Reputation, she really leaned into the idea of newspapers and tabloids. I was just like coincidentally watching a clip of how she was using during the rep tour. She had newspaper. It was what fell as
the
confetti.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah,
one.
and obviously it played into like the intro and like same thing. Like she leaned in to like tabloids, the imagery of the papers and how people just keep writing stuff and just can't leave her out of any of it.
Mm-hmm. And then she repeats, "Don't you ever end up anything but mine." So to me, with all of that said, none of these things matter. My past doesn't matter. What the press is saying, what people are saying, none of that stuff, the jewelry, none of it matters as long as we end up together. Don't you ever end up anything but mine.
Out of all of her bridges, it's definitely a very simple bridge. It's not like one of the bridges of all bridges that like wrecks you, but I still like appreciate it. And that's why this song is so interesting. And like, obviously we just did a very in-depth breakdown. So it's clearly, you know, a deep song, like all of Taylor's music, but it still is more of one of her like simpler ones, and yet the beat and the whole composition just really carries it and just makes it so much bigger than, you know, it could be, with like the lyrics and all of that. So
yeah,
not one of her craziest bridges, but still a whole vibe.
It's like we talked about with The Fate of Ophelia, and you can say this for any Taylor Swift song. You could just listen to this and vibe out to it, whether it's for the melody or the catchy lyrics. And you don't have to know anything about Elizabeth Taylor or Taylor Swift to vibe to this song. It does look like simple and straightforward when you first hear it or look at the lyrics. But then when you peel all the layers down, it's like, there's a lot of references she freaking fit into this. You think she just had a list of Elizabeth Taylor's movies, for example, and was like, how many of these can I work into lyrics? Oh, the girl who had everything.
You just know that she went down that rabbit hole. Elizabeth Taylor's son put that idea in her head and she just went straight down the rabbit hole and ran away with it and was like, oh, I've been sitting on this for years because, again, I've brought it up in different ways throughout music, just less obvious. And she's like, how about I just like name a whole song called Elizabeth Taylor? And I was like searching because we didn't do as many like direct like lyrical parallels to other songs like A Fate of Ophelia, which gave us a ton. But when I was like, you know, Taylor obviously uses the lyric lover a lot in her music, and one that really like felt kind of relevant was like, but daddy, I love him, when she says scandal does funny things to pride but brings lovers closer. And it's like, when you think about this story, if that could play in, you know, also like the reputation of like Burton to this Taylor and like the Bonnie and Clyde aspect, and like, yeah, scandal does like funny things to pride. And so with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, it's like their scandal, you know, with their other lovers and all of that, but it brought them closer. And, you know, just like the play on
other lovers being their marriages. Yes. They were married and then they were photographed on a yacht together, looking real cozy. So yeah, scandal does funny things to pride, but it does bring lovers closer. They ended up getting divorced and then getting married.
Also, Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus changed plans and lovers and outfits and rules. I'm like, is that not literally what Elizabeth Taylor did with Richard Burton?
All
like,
to run
changed plans,
all to
lovers.
outrun the idea of you. Yep.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss if we're sitting here talking about the word lover and don't reference the album Lover. That goes without saying, I think.
Lover!
But, yeah. The album Lover, the song Lover, you get it.
Our namesake, well, not our namesake's hits differently from Hits Different, but I realized that there was a lyric with lover from me, Baby Doll, when it comes to a lover, which I realized I was like, oh, Baby Doll, like she says that in like Life of a Showgirl. And then it's
Baby
like,
Doll, when
Baby
it comes
Doll,
to a lover.
a lover, promise that you'll never find another like me.
Me.
Hits differently.
You know, I think that's the perfect place to leave it. We've come full circle from the intro.
We gave you no lyrical parallels, and I just gave you like 5 from all these random songs. Because why not?
From the word lover. I love it. If you relate to this Elizabeth Taylor song in any way, please submit your Tay Therapy submission, Ryan and I will be very intrigued to see if people do have stories that relate to this song, or if this song helped you put anything into perspective. You just have opinions on it. We want to hear from you. And the link to fill this out will be in the description of this episode. If this isn't the song that really connects for you personally, you can just go and fill out the form for another song on the life of a showgirl, because we're going to be covering all of them. So if we don't get any Tay Therapy submissions for Elizabeth Taylor, we're going straight on to Opalite.
If Portofino was on your mind, let us know. Shout out to if anyone's been to Portofino, drop it in the form, tell us about it.
If you haven't vibed to the song, have you been to Musso and Frank's? Let us know. We're probably going to start switching gears and diving into the end of an era docuseries and covering all of that. And then we'll resume our showgirl content to start the new year in 2026. So this has been really fun breaking down these 2 songs in depth. And I know we'll have just as much fun with the next 10, however long it takes.
2 years.
We'll see how much more content Taylor keeps pumping out. All right. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Bye.